What happened at the worst party you've ever been to? Over 10 years ago my employees got together to throw me a going away party. It was held at a local bar that had closed to the public just for the party, so of course I'm feeling really special. There was a kid there, around 19 years old, who was a really good guy but generally attracted trouble. I used to talk to him all the time, and anytime I sensed that he was about to step out and do something stupid I used to always say, you know the worst gift a kid can give his mother? A dead son. There's a long story behind that, but it just somehow became a thing I always said to him. Anyway, I gave a quick speech and started to duck out just as things were livening up so everybody could have their fun while I returned to my wife and our newborn. I bumped into that kid on the way out, talked to him a bit, and of course the dead son line was the last thing I said before I left. Actually I said, you know the worst gift, and he answered, a dead son, gave me a hug, and that was it. Pretty obvious how this story ends. Got the call a few hours later telling me he'd been killed in a car wreck. Turns out that he was trying to do good, hadn't drank a drop, no drugs, or anything. He just got into the wrong car and let a drunk idiot drive him home. There were about 4 kids in the car and he was the only one that didn't walk away. Sad. Edit. Thanks you/Faunchlia. Oh dear god. I made out with my ex-wife's mother at a poolside party. Yes, booze was involved. I was at a trashy shotgun wedding reception and slipped off to piss in the bushes. When I came back there were 2 blonde strippers dressed as cops arresting the groom. I said, who the duck rents strippers for a wedding, really loud right as the music cut out. They weren't strippers. I went to a friend's graduation party after high school. I wasn't great friends with him, but I figured I would stop by with my GF because he was nice enough to invite me. The party was so done up. Tables full of food, streamers, confetti, all that it. And my GF and I were the only ones there. I felt awful. His parents clearly went all out to celebrate it, and it was so uncomfortable being one of 5 people there, including him and his parents. I felt awful for him. We stayed for hours out of pity, and just kind of made small talk. Super depressing. An old friend who unfortunately is no longer with us used to throw house parties all the time in high school. It would usually be 15-30 people getting wasted and doing hard drugs. This one particular time he hosted a massive high school party because his parents weren't home. So he had probably between 80 and 90 of us teenagers at his house partying like crazy. Ecstasy, coke, shrooms, and of course tons of pot and booze. About an hour and a half goes by and people are messed up and having a blast. I did about 4-5 grams of shrooms that night, so I was toast. My buddy who hosted the party filled up capsules with nutmeg. Yes, nutmeg. And he was swallowing those all night. Read up about a large consumption of nutmeg. So like I said, an hour and a half goes by and someone asks him where his parents went on vacation. His response: they're not on vacation. They went out to watch a movie. Just then is when the car rolled up on the driveway filled with a bunch of drunk-ass stoned punks. Everyone ran out of the house and to the park closest to his place. Every single person in that house took off. Everyone. Even the guy who hosted the party. I don't know if he was worried his parents would kill him or if the nutmeg ducked him up so much that he didn't know he was at his own house. Man, I miss that guy. Since many of these stories are about drunketing and puking and other horrible things, allow me to lighten the mood with some comedy. For one unlucky tween partygoer, this was definitely the worst party ever. My pal had a birthday sleepover. We were in 8th or 9th grade, I think. Street Fighter 2 had just came out for the SNES, so that was basically all we did. His parents had laid out some snacks and drinks on a party table, and there was one of these huge bags of party-sized Doritos there. We were playing Street Fighter when one of the guys grabbed a chip, bit into it, and yelled, "Doug, this chip is wet." He began investigating the bag and we quickly discovered that all the chips were wet. The birthday boy's 5-year-old little brother had taken advantage of our Street Fighter distraction and licked all of the Dorito dust from every chip and placed them back in the bag. We found him playing in his room, his face covered in the implicating dust. Acquaintance I had met a few weeks prior invited me to a surprise party for his girlfriend. He said free beer, so I was there. I show up and it's pre-gaming and your usual college shenanigans. Person in charge of keeping her busy texts him and says they'll be home soon. We are all pretty blitzed at this point, but we managed to start hiding. 2 minutes pass, and 2 more, and nothing. Finally I get up to go find him. He's getting a blowjob from one of the other girls at the party. They barely noticed me, but in the meantime, the girlfriend came to the front door and she couldn't have been more excited. Everything other than that was going great until I was formally introduced to the girl giving some sloppy head. It was the girlfriend's sister. No one at this party knew except me. That was the worst party because it sobered me up quick with awkwardness all night. A couple of months ago I went to my friend's party, which was joined with his flatmates. About 20 minutes after we got there, the housemate started banging on a glass with a fork and one of my friends got everyone to quiet down, assuming it was a speech. The guy then says there are too many people here that I don't know and told me and most of my friends to leave. He took us down to let us out but couldn't unlock the front door, so we had to awkwardly stand there for 15 minutes until he found the housemate we were friends with and made him let us all out. My buddy's girlfriend jerked off his dog while he was out back talking. She did it to prove she could get anyone or anything off. It was horrifying. High school, late 80s, at an outside party with a bonfire to celebrate the end of the school year. Some numbnuts throws a glass bottle of beer into the fire. About 20 minutes later the bottle explodes and shoots a stream of boiling beer all over a girl's crotch and legs. Ambulance was called. I believe she required several skin grafts over several months. I can still remember her shrilling scream and then her passing out. Some girl apparently had made out with a guy who wasn't her boyfriend before leaving. Someone at the party tells him via text and a little while later someone is kicking down the door. He barges in waving a gun around screaming, "Which one of you motherfuckers made out with my girl?" People are ducking, scurrying away, and I'm just standing there thinking, if this is how I die I'm going to be pissed. Host, who knew him, quickly pushes him out the door. I visited a buddy of mine at his college and he invited me to his fraternity's party. They forgot to send the social email to the sorority, so none of them showed up. This was supposed to be a huge party, so all the broth showed up hammered and angry at seemingly everyone that there were no girls. It was a toga party. 55 dudes, 0 girls, and 55 togas. My sister's birthday was in the middle of the school holidays, and for her 7th birthday she had a party that no one turned up to. Turns out our mother put the wrong date on the invites, so a lot of people had tried to come over the day before whilst we were out. Somebody brought their baby. Keep in mind we're all 17-year-olds, so WTF. My brother was at a party once where there were more than a couple underage drinkers present. The house they were at had a thin driveway, so all the cars were packed into a bottleneck. The night wore on and around 1 in the morning someone decided they wanted to go home. They found the girl who owned the car at the front of the bottleneck and asked her to move her car so she could get out. She said she couldn't because she had a breathalyzer installed in her car and it wouldn't start until someone sober blew into it. They went around the party and tried to find anyone who hasn't been drinking and couldn't find one. Another guy had the brilliant idea of asking the cool 20-something dude next door to do it. So an envoy of teens head over to the house next door and ask the dude living there if he would please blow into a breathalyzer so they could leave. The dude takes a minute to look the group over, takes a drag of his cigarette, and says, "You're gonna give me $25 for every person at the party or I'm calling the cops." Double quote. Friend spat in a girl's face. I had to sleep in the kitchen and used the inside of a cupboard as a pillow. Was invited to a sorority party and thought it was going to be like the movies. Wild. Boy was I wrong. Ended up sitting in the corner of a room smoking hash all night and watched one girl eat an entire roast chicken to herself before I sauntered home blazed as duck at midnight. There was no alcohol at the party. It wasn't like the movies. Edit. I'm a dude, so I had weird sorority fantasies. You know. Fools decided to hold the keg in the basement. The party got way too crowded and people ended up camping around the keg. As you can imagine, the basement got exceedingly hot and crowded, with too many bodies, stagnant air, low ceilings and heat. Someone eventually threw up. This, coupled with an already empty keg, caused a stampede for the one narrow staircase out. A bottleneck ensued and someone got wedged and pushed so hard into the door frame at the base of the stairs that their arm broke in 2 places. Hysteria. Police and an ambulance ended up on the scene and the party was over. TL. Dr. More than don't put the keg in the basement. The worst was a large second year college party at some kids off campus apartment. Some of us noticed that people kept disappearing, without a word, from the party, until we opened a bedroom door and saw an orgy in progress, with people so boozed up, or high, that there were no boundaries as to who was doing what, and to whom. Two couples got into a fight. Later, when they realized their partners were doing each other, the rest of us just left before things got worse. It was a bachelor party. A friend of a friend was getting married. I ended up there because my buddy had an extra invitation. Strippers all around. Booze and it. About 30 minutes later, 5 to 6 wives break in the place and start to yell at their husbands, almost all of them with a stripper by their side. I left as soon as possible and masturbated myself to sleep. Went to another college to visit some friends. I walk through the door and realize something's wrong. They were all drunk and watching some fat chick poop on the floor. I left 5 minutes later still laughing hysterically. Had a friend who did a bowling party birthday dart when he was 17 and it was entirely organized by his parents. Cake, hats, dumb games. Oof. Like 5 people showed up and everyone was embarrassed to be there. I have a few. 1. Senior year of high school. Went to a party down the street. Tons of people showed up. So I ended up drinking with a few people in the basement where it was less crowded. At like 2 AM the cops showed up and kicked in the front door. They didn't let anyone leave before getting their information and writing them a ticket. I hid in the shower while they were searching the basement. Once everyone had gotten picked up or driven home by the cops, I went to sleep on the back porch as the sun was coming up, without getting any citations or in any trouble. Everyone else lost their license for a year. 2. First semester college. Get to frat party. Drink and chill for a bit. I was in the kitchen getting a new beer when all of a sudden the music stops and I realize something's wrong. I walk back to the living room and this dude is having a seizure on the floor. We all see it, and it freaks us all out. There was a guy blowing glass bongs and pipes at the party I was at. Someone got so it-faced and knocked him over, which set the house on fire. Good times. Let me put it this way, around midnight some dude asked me if I had found his front teeth. I got blackout drunk in my friend's dorm room on screwdrivers and promptly passed out for like 30 minutes. I woke up and started asking to go to the bathroom, but the host sister wasn't there, so I got up and ambled over to the sink and just started pissing in it. The sink was in the dorm room and it only took a couple seconds for everyone to figure out what I was doing. One of my best friends asked me if I was peeing and I turned my head around while still pissing and just gave him this big grin. Then the bathroom door, which was right next to the sink I was voiding my bladder into, opened and the host sister, who hasn't even kissed anyone yet, sees her first D ever, and just stares at it for like 10 seconds. It wasn't pretty. I hadn't shaved recently and I had a horrible case of whiskey D, so it was ducking tiny. I was led off to my bed and she spent the rest of the night telling anyone she could find that my cock was small. And that's how I got my username. Few years ago my friend threw a big party at the house she shared with 3 guys. Everyone who lived in this house was in a relationship, and all of them had been friends since they were about 11. The morning of the party it emerged that a few days before one of the guys had sexually assaulted another's girlfriend. At the party everyone was trying to keep this down low because only 3 people knew. I was told that he couldn't come because he was ill and went to stay at home for a day or 2. The entire story came out at about 2 AM. Everyone was screaming. Tears everywhere. So many punches were thrown. And the guy who did it wasn't even there. The house was wrecked completely. It ended at like 4 AM with me and a couple of other people just sitting on the steps eating the cupcakes someone brought, staring at the mess. That party, and the events leading up to it, completely destroyed a friend group. The guy that did it maintains that it was mutual. The girl it happened to maintains he tried to abuse her. The 4 people that lived together divided down the middle and haven't spoken to the other 2 since they moved out 3 weeks after the party. My friend and I are bored on a Saturday night. We get a call from Becky. Now, Becky isn't exactly our favorite person, but she says it's my boyfriend's birthday. We're having a keg. Come over. So as 19-year-old idiots would do, we beeline it over there. This is gonna be awesome. We'll just hang out for a couple hours. Have some beer and jet out. We get there, walk inside. It's just Becky and her boyfriend. With an ice cream cake. You guys want some cake now or later? Duck. There definitely was zero beer. We had to hang out with them for far too long. It was an odd night, but we ate cake. So we got that going for us, which is nice. Walked into my kitchen to see a very large semi-pro football player choking out a girl over the sink. I yell, "What the duck are you doing?" And he asks me who the duck I am. When I say it's my apartment, he stops, reaches out his hand and says, "Sorry, man. No disrespect." Great party. I threw a surprise birthday party for my middle sister last year and she got super upset. She cried and made a huge scene in front of everyone at the restaurant. She thought her boyfriend was gonna propose because he wouldn't tell her where they were going. She's the worst. My wife was on her way up to the north of England to be a bridesmaid for her friend who she has known since they were young. Her friend has learning disabilities, but seemed happy with her husband-to-be. On the morning of the wedding, the groom was arrested for molesting young children. He was, apparently, a known pedophile. The bride's family went ahead with the wedding reception anyway. They still had a wedding reception. From another thread. More than a clown came to my birthday party. I was 2 and the clown pulled out what us kids thought was a water gun, but it was a real gun. He proceeded to take all the mom's watches and purses and left. This was in Mexico. Probably the one my friends convinced me to throw in my dad's house when he was away. 1. Someone took it in my washing machine. 2. Someone wrapped themselves in toilet paper and set themselves on fire. 3. Someone stole coins from my dad's coin collection. Duck, I felt bad about that. 4. Someone broke the bathroom mirror. 5. A group of kids burned cigarette holes in our fancy couch. Some other kids upstairs burnt holes in the carpet. 6. A huge group of 30-year-olds showed up with a keg. We were 17 at the time, so WTF. And we almost got into a fight for not letting them in. 7. The girl I had just started getting close with left with a random group of people when things started dying down. 8. Lastly, no one stayed to help clean and my dad came back a day early. Worst party ever. My 9th birthday party. I invited the entire class as well as my only friends. They went to another school. The only person that showed up was my grandpa. I was invited to a birthday party and I took a 6-pack of beer. I found out halfway through the party that it was actually an anniversary party for the woman's first year of being sober. Everyone at the party was from the group at Alcoholics Anonymous. I was the only person standing there with a beer in my hand. I quickly left and was too embarrassed to take the remaining beers. For years after, I wondered whether any of those people drank the rest of my beer and fell off the wagon as a result. When I was in high school, my classmate was moving and his family had already gone to the new house. The old house was going to be torn down and was vacant, so he threw a break my party. People showed up with baseball bats, etc. I felt underdressed with an axe handle. Alcohol was involved. I was greeted at the door by a guy with a 6-shooter in his waistband, holding a chainsaw. The event only went downhill from there. I was 16 and now, many years later, I'm a dad. It makes me cringe very hard that my offspring would ever attend an event like that. A guy threw his girlfriend through a glass patio door. Like, not a playful shove. And not like a get away from me accident that escalated. No, I'm talking full-blown Dwayne The Rock John hurled her through that it. Head first. Not only did it stop the party in the apartment we were at, but both parties next door too. It was college. Screaming, yelling. Cops were called. It got real raggy real fast. The guy ended up retreating to the woods after a failed attempt to flee in his car. We wouldn't let him near it. The girl had to go to the hospital for a bunch of cuts. But she was out partying the next night from what I heard. Being bored, drunk, and mechanically inclined. We decided to teach the Dow checker Noah a lesson by dismantling his car, piece by piece, and stacking it neatly in front of the car. We got all 4 doors, the hood, wheels, seats, and some key engine components off before we finally got bored and moved on passed out. To be honest, it was pretty entertaining for me, minus the whole domestic abuse bit. TLD, a guy throws girl through glass door. Ruins 3 parties. So we dismantled his car. My 5-year-old birthday party. My friend Ricky decided to blow out my candles after everyone sang happy birthday, but before I had a chance to blow them out, I cried like a little itch. Duck Ricky. I went to the beach for a friend's birthday party. After the sun went down, we drove back to her house, about 30 minutes away, to continue the party. When we got home, her dog was dead. Because she lives in a rural area, the other guys and I had to dig a hole and bury it so the coyotes wouldn't consume the carcass. Burying a dead dog is the weirdest thing I've ever done at a birthday party. A line of 8 people vomited at the same time in front of the whole crowd. I was impressed. There was lots of booze apparently. Went to a buddy's house in high school, and it just so happened we had a health project where we had to take care of one of them baby dolls that cries. Well, I got hammered and fell asleep. Woke up to my baby torn limb from limb and hung up on the wall. I failed that project. This will probably get buried. But, went to a party in 1992. Gulf War vet showed up and found his girlfriend with another dude at the party. He went out to his truck, got his pistol and blew his brains out in the front yard of the party. On the upside, his family donated every part of his body. College party. Pre-drank with my buddies and their roommate Ryan. Ryan gets a drunk high super confidence and starts teaching us how to not take any it. We're walking to the party and with zero context he's preaching shoulders back, stand up straight, get right up in the guy's face. No idea why he feels the need to be such a tough guy. Within 5 minutes of being at the party, another guy puts Ryan in a headlock and blasts him in the face a quick 5 or so times. Blood everywhere. Hosts freaking out. It turns out they were arguing about how good a mutual friend was at water skiing. When you have a party, make sure you spread the kegs out and don't have them all stacked up in one spot. You think the kitchen floor can handle the weight? It cannot. I was tripping on mushrooms at a Polos and Bolos party when a brawl broke out. I'm talking there were 20-30 people per side. This was a frat party. I got blood all over my nice shirt and was generally just freaked out by the whole thing. I think I was maybe the only one not fighting. Even the girls at the party were attacking people. I was just surrounded by violence standing there holding my beer. I guess I looked harmless enough because nobody even noticed me. I felt like I was in the middle of a fight scene from 300. Everything hyper realistic. In slow motion. Blood flying. It was knuckin' futs. Looking back, it was a terrible idea to eat mushrooms at a crowded frat party, but that might have been what kept me out of the fight or getting my ass kicked. Plus the sheriff department showed up and arrested like 30 people, so I could have also gone to jail. All in all, a pretty crappy party. I lost a shoe whilst underage drinking at a party crashed by cops. I had to walk home with one ducking shoe. Found it the next day in a tree a few blocks away.